Episode 5 of The Bad Batch took us on a treasure hunt. Again. And honestly, I thought about quitting The Bad Batch. Now, usually I'm not one to harp on what filler episodes are. I understand that not every episode in a show can be a hit, and to an extent, filler episodes are necessary for building the overall tone and development of a show. Even the Clone Wars provided fillers that seemed to be less important episodes than others. Do you remember the story arc where C-3PO and R2-D2 crash landed on a planet, were attacked by action figure-sized aliens, and then C-3PO accidentally knocks R2 on top of their leader? His followers chant he's dead, and then C-3PO creates democracy on this planet. This episode did not contribute much to the overall story, but it provided an opportunity for a few characters to shine that don't normally get the spotlight. That's one of the benefits of a filler episode, which is what I enjoyed about last week's episode in The Bad Batch, where Tech really got the spotlight. But this episode didn't really even give the spotlight to anyone but maybe that pirate lady that they're working with. I'll say it again, this episode I thought about quitting The Bad Batch. Generally, I really do try to stay positive, and actually, if you enjoyed this week's episode, I'm glad for that. It actually takes a lot for me to not enjoy or be frustrated by filler episodes. When I realized The Bad Batch was going on yet another treasure hunt with a sketchy character that we know nothing about, I reached for my phone and started scrolling through Instagram. I was checked out. But then I started to notice something about this episode that makes me think how these low excitement Bad Batch episodes are actually intentionally serving a purpose. I began to notice that my reaction to the prospect of another dead-end treasure hunt was mirroring the reactions of members of the Bad Batch, mainly Hunter and Echo. I noticed that they were rolling their eyes at the same things I was. When Fee, the pirate leading this episode's adventure, said something lame, I responded the same way Hunter did. When I discovered all they were after was treasure, I objected like Echo did in the beginning. And that brings me to the title of this video. I actually think Echo will leave the Bad Batch by the end of the season, or that's a possibility. There's a couple reasons I think this will be the case. The first reason has to do with the same reason you might be frustrated with filler episodes. Echo's desire to join the fight against the Empire and be a part of what's happening in the galaxy right now is a theme that has been building out throughout this season. In the first 2 episodes, he was very vocal about his desire to be involved in something bigger than small little treasure hunts for Sid. This desire is only going to grow the more the Bad Batch sits on the sidelines. Hey, think about it in this episode. They followed Fee because Sid didn't even have work for them at this point. They weren't even on the job, so they're getting less and less to do. Second, despite being an irregular clone at this point, Echo is still a reg, as the Bad Batch would say. He fits in well with the Bad Batch, but he spent most of his life with the regs. And a big storyline this season has to do with the clones beginning to question the Empire. In episode 3, we saw Cody walk away from the Empire, which is a big deal. Cody not only sacrificed so much in the name of the Empire, but he was also the poster boy for by the book. The Bad Batch have been laying low and likely don't know that other clones are questioning and leaving the Empire yet, but eventually they will learn of this. Perhaps other AWOL clones will be the kick forward Hunter needs to lead the Bad Batch into bigger and more important things. If he doesn't, Echo will certainly leave the Bad Batch to join these regs who are abandoning the Empire. For the most part, we don't know what these clones are doing though after they abandon the Empire. They are most likely going into hiding, laying low and starting a new life, or perhaps they maybe are jumping in to join the fight against the Empire, but we just don't know that yet. I believe that the Bad Batch will come off of the sidelines to help more and more clones escape the Empire. Maybe it will be Cody that tracks them down and informs them that clones are leaving, but none of them have anywhere to go. Think about it. The Bad Batch has already gone through this process of leaving the Empire and figuring out what's next. True, they're still largely trying to figure out what their next big picture move is, but they've at least learned the cheesy lesson that they have each other. Okay, I got a little bit derailed from Echo for a moment. I think the Echo will ultimately be the one, or at least play a big role in becoming a champion for AWOL clones. With the help of the Bad Batch, I think that we'll see these AWOL clones brought together and given new purpose. Now, that new purpose could be joining the fight against the Empire for a bit, but I also think it would be interesting to see these clones get a second chance at life, in the same way that Cut has. Could you imagine the clones setting up a colony on a distant world and building their own little civilization? I'm not saying that's necessarily what I want to see, but it'd certainly be a twist from where their story ends up in Legends, just kind of being absorbed and then phased out by the Empire. Now, finally, I don't think Echo is invested in protecting Omega like the rest of the Bad Batch. That's not to say he doesn't care about her. I just think that he doesn't relate to her on the same level as the others. Because remember, the rest of the Bad Batch have genetic mutations just like Omega does. Echo does not have those same things. He's certainly unique, but the way that he got unique is different than the Bad Batch. So at the end of the day, Echo is a Reg, and his Reg brothers are beginning to go through a pivotal shift in their story. And I think Echo could decide he needs to be part of this widespread shift from the Empire when his brothers need him the most. Well, the rest of the squad focuses on Omega's future. But could Omega's story be the key to what's next for all of the clones? So maybe there isn't a reason for Echo to completely part ways, but that's perhaps maybe another discussion. All that to say, I'm not actually quitting the Bad Batch. These filler episodes have tempted me though, but they've also tempted Echo to quit as well. And I think it's important to understand that the Bad Batch are on the sidelines because they are wrestling with the tension of laying low and protecting Omega versus using their exceptional abilities to help in the fight against the Empire. But if they can't stay on the sidelines forever, and just like we might be getting frustrated with slow-moving filler episodes, they are as well, and I think that is ultimately what's going to lead them towards the next big step in the fight against the Empire. What did you think of this episode? I know this wasn't a traditional breakdown, but there really wasn't anything that needs explaining. This was a pretty straightforward episode. They went on a treasure hunt and activated a really old weapon of mass destruction and then destroyed it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below, what are your predictions for this season of The Bad Batch? If you haven't already, leave a like for the video. It helps out the channel so much. Have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you.